One of the most important things about people's job search is really not your resume. It's not your LinkedIn profile. It's your ability to follow up and thank people genuinely and in a way that other people may not do it. So, the two ways that I recommend to thank people on your job search, both after you have an interview, a formal interview, but also when you meet with people and you have an informational interview, you really utilize your network. So the two things I'd recommend are thank you cards, actually a handwritten thank you card. Send one of those after every single interview and every single informational interview. If you don't know what informational interviews are, they're when you get a chance to meet with a manager, somebody who's really involved with the company and find out more about their career, how they got there, how their business or organization is succeeding, thriving, the challenges they have, and really learning what they need and what they'll look for in their next employee and using that to apply with them in the future and apply with other companies like them in the future. So, informational interviews, I've got a great video on that. Just comment below and I can share the link for that. But really, after any really good touch point with somebody who's going to help your career, sending a thank you card is so important. It might cost a couple bucks to have a nice card mailed off to somebody, but it's totally worth it. I remember all the thank you cards I've got. It really makes a difference. And if you really want to step up your game on your job search for people you really connect with, people who you think really have your best interests in heart, send them a book about something they care about. So this is a friend. She actually wrote this book herself. Most of us have never written a book. I mean, it's great if you've written a book or have time to, and you can send that, but usually a book that somebody's going to be interested in. So, a friend just recently sent me a book. We're a part of a mastermind of headhunting companies, and he sent me a book about cycling around Siberia that his brother actually wrote. So, I've cycled around South America, had a wonderful time, big mountain biker, ride with my kids every day. So, it meant a lot to me. And if you recognize something important to somebody and you send a really good book, it makes such a big difference in their lives and will actually really cement you as somebody that may not become their best friend, but you will likely be referred as soon as they hear about a job. You can use them as an informal reference. Really, it is those loose ties that really help people get a job, right? So if if you have a great informational interview, you've sent a thank you card, and they're actually kind of feeding you information, helping you on your career. Well, why not spend the $25, the $15, whatever it is to buy a book on Amazon and send it to them? I really recommend this tactic for your career long term, but also when you're trying to get that better job, right? So think about sending a book, sending thank you cards, some notes on thank you cards, keep them pretty short, kind of 2 to 3 lines, something specific that you enjoyed about the organization, the people in particular, how you're greeted, maybe something that you liked about the job. You're really excited to hear that the challenges of digging into dealing with customers or solving a really great technical problem that they discuss or from one of the questions that you had. I've got a video coming on what questions to ask during an interview. Another totally important strategic thing for anybody's job search. So really putting something specific in that you really liked and something that hopefully will help you differentiate yourself from the other candidates and send that within 24 hours of your interview. If you can drop it off in person, that would be great. If you met the person at reception in the past, really thank them again and really make sure to keep those people in mind because they might actually be part of the interviewing process. People who greet and bring somebody out into the interview. So really try and follow up in person and bring it. Even if you don't get the job offer, send a thank you email as well, right? Cut the budget because they might not hire you, but there is a good chance that person that they hired doesn't work out. It totally happens. Working on a search where somebody was there about 2 months and they didn't work out. So we're replacing that person. So there's always a chance the person didn't work out. So even when you get a rejection or you haven't heard, say, you can assume the job was filled. You saw somebody got hired on LinkedIn. Send a follow up, a week later or 2 weeks later. So thanks so much for the interview. I really appreciated interviewing with you. Can you let me know if there's any other opportunities in the future? And if you don't mind, I'm going to follow up and just find out how things are going with you and your career in 2 to 3 months because those touch points they might not get you a job at that company but they could get you a job at somewhere else that's hiring. So Really keep that in mind. Stay positive. If you don't get an interview, don't post on LinkedIn about how a company is bad or anything like that. Keep really positive and keep engaging with people, following up with them on LinkedIn. If you're not connected to somebody before the interview, feel free to connect with them after the interview. Some people might not accept it, but most will, right? And if they can see you're a positive person online, it'll make a difference. And another good point, always make sure your LinkedIn, your Facebook, all your Instagram is devoid of anything that's going to turn people off. Remember, 50% of politics is disagreeing with other sides. So remove all your political stuff that you posted after the last 6 months, 8 months, a year. Bring that stuff down and make sure your social media is pretty clean, because even when you send that thank you note, it might be like, oh yeah, I want, who was that person? They might just Google your name because it might have slipped. They might have done 7 interviews. So always clean up your social media uh, before you have interviews and before you're applying for jobs. But if you haven't done so yet, when you're sending a thank you card, that's another great time to make sure everything's looking very good and clean. Save that surprise of who you really are for when you get the job. All right. I'll see you on the next one. Any questions, ask them below, and I'll try and get to you on the next one.